Me when my 6-year-old nephew asked me what I bought him for his birthday.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Me avoiding all the important stuff I needed to do today.
Y'all ready for this? Whoa.
And this is me turning up at a fragrance community social event with other niche connoisseurs.
Are you wearing links? Well smelt. Voodoo. Java. Nice to meet you.
I wear Tommy Hilfiger.
Hello folks, welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to tell you the truth about YouTuber fragrances. YouTuber fragrances, a phenomenon of much discussion in the fragrance community over the last 4 or 5 years really now, I guess. By the way, on that topic, Gravitas Pour Homme by Norton & Wilson. I filmed this video, and hopefully as you're watching it, depending how long after I upload it you're watching it, we've got an amazing special offer. 30% off, one of our best offers ever on Gravitas Pour Homme at the Norton & Wilson website. Go there now, link in the description. This is a fantastic fougere fragrance from my brand, Norton & Wilson, although it's our brand, myself and Mr. Wilson who do it together. And we like to think that it's not really a YouTuber fragrance in the commonly understood sense of what that tends to mean, okay? So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. By the way, the note listing on this one, you've got bergamot, lavender, mandarin in the top. Then you have a mid of coriander, cardamom and pepper. And the base notes are patchouli, oak moss, ambergris and vanilla. Absolutely amazing. It is fresh. It is spicy, it has a fantastic typical kind of aromatic fougere DNA, but it's got something magical that John Stephen, esteemed UK-based perfumer, English perfumer, with many, many decades in the industry, everything that he produces has this je ne sais quoi, his own magical touch, quite unique. So go and check that out. Amazing special offer, 30% off. Okay, let's get stuck into it. So YouTuber fragrances, the true, well, what do I really think about them? Okay, so of course, there are many, many YouTubers now with successful big channels, and many of them have in one way or another released a fragrance or somehow put their name to a fragrance, and there's lots of different ways that they've done that, and I'll tell you what I think about some of the ways that people have done this. Okay, so first up, first person to do this, as you may know, was Jeremy Fragrance. I know there was someone called Kerosene who had a channel who did a fragrance before that, but in terms of a kind of very well-known one, and what we're talking about here, it was Jeremy Fragrance, the first person with a really big channel to produce a fragrance with his name on it. Fragrance One, the brand name, and the fragrance was Office for Men. Then we've had other things like Date for Men, etc., etc. That seems to have gone all tits up, because he ran it with his brother. They fell out, and I'm not sure what's actually happening with that brand. You can still buy the fragrances, but I don't know if they're kind of wrapping the whole thing up. I'm not sure. Jeremy seems to have moved on with his main thrust of how he makes his living and stuff. I think he's got his own TV show in Germany. Yeah, I won't say anything about that. Good luck to him. Great stuff. So these fragrances were the first to be released by a YouTuber, and he did it kind of the most thorough and proper way that you can do it, because he did a Kickstarter campaign, which means it's crowdfunding basically. So people pre-ordered the fragrance, paid all the money in, so he may not even have had to invest any of his own money, got all the money in, like a pre-order scenario, and then produced the fragrance. And it was, of course, tremendously successful. And some people are critical of the fragrance, but a lot of people don't like Jeremy. Maybe they're jealous. Not everyone approves of his style. They were very well produced fragrances. Alberto Marias was the perfumer for the first one, Office for Men, and they're good. They're good, solid fragrances. Okay, so that was the first person to do it, and of course he had the biggest platform that anyone's had so far who's done it. So hats off to him. There's nothing really wrong with that. People said, "Oh, it's a cash grab." Well, yes, anyone who releases a product of any kind is trying to get cash for it and make a profit. So I kind of object to that phrase, the cash grab thing. I mean, I guess if you're trying to say that they put no thought into the product and they're just exploiting the customer and using their name, and it's actually a below par kind of product, not worth the money, I guess I can see how you could say something's a cash grab. But I think his fragrances are decent. They weren't that cheap, that's true. You could debate, why would you buy fragrance Office for Men when you could buy a Chanel fragrance? Some people can debate that. You could say the same thing about any YouTuber fragrance. Anyway, hats off to him. Then a lot of other people have done fragrances, and the next kind of thing that came along was Navitus. That was Stephen from Redolescence launched his own, what appeared to be his brand, Navitus, but it kind of turned out that other people then released fragrances and put their name to fragrances under the Navitus brand, and there was some kind of backer. Some people say it's in the Middle East or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with what they did there. And I've actually got a couple of the fragrances, and they really are quite good. Chris Maurice, I think the perfumer for Xerjoff, was behind a couple of them. There's been ones done with Monica Chiok and untold numbers of other people. I think Big Beard Business. Okay, so the problem people have with that is all that happens there is a big company behind them sorts out all this packaging, and all the bottling and all the shipping and all the kind of boring stuff that has to be done with the brand, and then they just kind of show up and put their face to it, and they call themselves creative director, and no doubt we will never know how much input they had in the creation of the fragrance, but I don't doubt that in many cases they were quite intimately involved in it. But ultimately, yes, somebody else made the fragrance. Of course, very few of the perfume YouTuber brands are done by the actual YouTuber themselves as being the perfumer, of course. And so you can say, well, they're just putting their face to it for money, which is, there's some truth in that, but a lot of the fragrances are fine. So that's another way you can do it. And to be honest with you guys, here's, the truth about it. The truth is, how can you really blame anyone for doing that? They've got a big platform. Essentially, a YouTube channel is a very small version of a TV channel. So they've got an opportunity to advertise things, be sponsored. And of course, rather than just get a little bit of an affiliate fee for selling something off a website of some other brand, why don't you actually produce something and then you get a larger chunk of the money yourself? You see this. I watch things about politics and current affairs and culture, and the guy halfway through the video tells you about their own coffee brand. It's not even a coffee channel, but he's produced coffee with somebody, because you've got to make your money out of this stuff if you want to do it full time. So I don't think there's anything morally wrong with it. I think obviously some of the fragrances you'll like better than others. That's what's happened. It's nothing bad about that. You do have some people with their own brand who are actually the perfumer and a YouTuber. So Aaron Terence Hughes, I think, actually was a perfumer before he was a YouTuber. So, I mean, you have to give credit to that. He owns the brand and he's the perfumer and he's got a YouTube channel. So whether I particularly would like to go for a pint with Aaron Terence Hughes, I wouldn't. Hats off to him, because he is the brand. He's the man behind the perfume in the realest sense of the word. He makes them. Also, Fragrance View, a guy in England, has the same kind of thing. You have to give great credit to those guys for that. So what do you think about that? Of course, the debate is, why would you spend what tends to be kind of niche money? They're all niche kind of prices, or at least designer, but usually above designer prices, for something just from some guy off of YouTube. When if you want to kind of get something a bit more quirky and not obvious and not Creed, you can buy fragrances by small indie brands. You can buy a zoologist fragrance. You can buy something maybe, I don't know, whatever. This is kind of not that obvious. Marc-Antoine Barroy, however you say that, Barrios, whatever that brand's called, excuse me, Ganymede, and that kind of feels maybe like a little bit less. There's a certain naffness attached to it being a YouTuber fragrance, and that's what I'm trying to get away with. So what do you think about that? So I'm talking about my fragrance very briefly then. So Norton & Wilson, we really want to pitch ourselves as not being a YouTube fragrance. Now, to some extent, that's, of course it is to some extent. However, I am the co-owner of the brand with one other person, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson and I, between us, get all the stuff made. He does he's more responsible for getting the packaging and the shipping and designing the boxes and the logos and things. We'll kind of cooperate on that, the design side a little bit. And I'm responsible alongside him for thinking about how we want the fragrances to smell, composing the brief for the 4 fragrances that we've got, and then we send it to the perfumer, and then it comes back. But John Stephen, of course, has a huge impact, because you can ask for a painting of something and describe what you want, but it's the artiste really that creates it and puts their magic touch. So it's as much John Stephen's brand as ours, although he doesn't own any of it. So how about that? Remarkable, actually, how you can actually get a high-class, esteemed, historically big part of the perfume industry perfumer to make a perfume for a little nobody like me. I was very flattered and surprised. So Gravitas Prom was our leading, our first fragrance that we produced. We've got Chypre Fulminare, is phenomenal, and do check that one out. And also Bon Viveur, a kind of a fresh one, but a freshie with a difference. And then we have the amazing flanker to Gravitas, which is called Gravitas Essentia. So we have done really great things with that, and we are looking now to maybe get this out to an audience or potential customers that have never heard of Mr. Smelly, which is almost everyone in the world. That's the challenge. If anyone has any ideas how to help me with that, let me know. But we want to one day be known simply as a rather refined English niche fragrance brand, which most of our customers who buy our products will be very, very impressed by, but will never have heard of Mr. Smelly. And I would prefer that, actually. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. I will see you in the next one. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. And although life may sometimes, very often, stink, at least we can always smell good. Let's do this. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. We've got this. We've got this, team. We've got this. Here we go. Definitely got this. Have we? I don't know. Let's find out.